You know what I realized now looking at myself in this shirt? I have not a single tan line. Not a single tan line from this summer. Tragic. Anyways, but you know what? I think I managed to make it through the whole summer without getting burned. So, I mean, that's great. Today, let's wrap up my August reading month. It was like an okay month. I only had 3 5-stars, which is better than, was it last month? I think last month I like barely had any, and 1 month I only had like the Wolf Hotel series was my only 5-star. My summer has not been the best reading summer, but I did have some really good books that I'm excited to talk about. Without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, so first up, I mean, let's just get these out of the way, okay? So I read these first 2 books at the very beginning of the month for a reading vlog that is already up, and that is Exodus and Finish Line. I read these for a Ravenhood series reading vlog. I'm not going to get into things on here. Oh, I just realized that this is uneven. Did that look uneven? Now does that look uneven? Is that better? I feel like that still looks a little uneven. Whatever. Also, you can see my dry shampoo in the back. Let's move that. Okay, anyways, I'm not going to get into things on here. Obviously, I read these before things came out about one of Kate Stewart's other books that she's written. I have not read that book. I don't plan on reading it now. We're on Bookstagram or on Book Talk. You've probably already seen. If you haven't already, go do your own research. I'm not getting into it here. There are so many creators that made informational videos showcasing things and talked about it with their own like personal experiences, where like I don't have that personal experience. I'll just say that I was very disappointed to see things that came out because I really loved these books, and yeah, it sucked. So anyways, we're just gonna move on. We're gonna keep on moving to like the more positive things here, except I do have one 1-star book that I'm like very excited to like rant about because it made me, I hated this book. It was like my first 1-star read of the year. So we'll get back to like a bit of a negative space in a little bit here, but for now, let's move on to a book that I did like, even though it was super, super dark, and that is 24,690 by A.A. Dark. So this one, I already talked about it in the darkest books that I have ever read. That was my video last week. This one is like pitch black, but I actually did really enjoy it. And I normally don't enjoy books like these, but I was intrigued enough by this one, and I'm definitely going to keep going with the series. So this one follows Everly, aka 24,690. That is her number that she is assigned. She is not known as Everly in what is it called? Whitlock. Whitlock is the place that she is. Everly was the daughter of a pretty prominent like rich family, and her family was killed. Like I think they were like taken out, and she was kidnapped when she was younger, and she was taken to Whitlock to be sold as a slave there. And she has had a master, and at the very beginning of this book, like in the first chapter, her master is murdered, and Everly's fate is kind of up in the air a little bit. So this is kind of all that Everly has known. Whitlock is this place where the rich, the famous, the politicians, the actors, the A-listers, anyone with a ton of money can pay to go and have this like alternative world there. It's like set in our society. I believe it's somewhere in the mountains. Was it in Wyoming? It's like far-fetched, but also like it's not that far-fetched, and it's like messed up because these women, like the night of the auction, when like all of the new women are in there and they're going to be going up for auction, and you hear some of them being like, oh my god, did you hear that like that famous movie actor is here, like, oh, I hope I go to him. And in Everly's mind, she's like, no, he literally like skins and eats his people. But like it's so wild. But anyway, so Everly's fate is left up in the air, and it also follows Bram and West, and Bram is the owner of Whitlock, not the owner, the leader of Whitlock, and he and Everly have a little bit of a past that you'll get into and learn about in there, and he does have feelings towards her, but he can't have those feelings. He like won't allow himself to have those feelings. So even though he wants Everly, once she needs a new master, he won't let himself have her. And his best friend West, in like second in command, takes an interest in Everly and really wants her. Everly goes through horrible things, like trigger warnings out the wazoo with this one, okay? Like really be careful before going into it. But all I will say is that I don't typically like books like this when women have like literally no autonomy, but I will just say that Everly is a player in this game, and do not count her out even when it seems like she has the bleakest of circumstances. Don't not bet on her, okay? Next up is like one of my favorites that I read this month, and that is Home Game by Odette Stone. So this is the second book in the Vancouver Wolves series. I read Puck Me Secretly last year, absolutely loved it, and just never got around to reading Home Game, even though I had it downloaded, and then I finally got around to it, and it was so good. Also, thank you to Cheyenne for sending this to me. She also loved this book. This was like one of her favorites of last month. This one follows Ryan and Zoe, and this one is a sports, like hockey romance, forced proximity. They do become roommates, slow burn, strangers to friends to lovers kind of vibes. So Ryan is a hockey player, and he is transferred to Vancouver from his old team. He's just kind of getting settled in the city, but he's really having a problem like gelling with the team because there was a little incident with one of the team's former players that he injured in a game, like unintentionally. Like he didn't do it to be like a dirty play or anything, but it was an unintentional injury that then this hockey player is now out for of the sport. And so the team just like, they're not sold on Ryan, but he has no choice. Like that's where he got drafted to go, and he's just trying to make the best of it. And he's at a coffee shop one day and he's trying to do his expenses, and the girl sitting next to him is like, dude, you are so hopeless. And she helps him out a little bit with his expenses and figuring out like his computer and stuff, because he's just like dumb. He can't figure out. Although, you know what, I shouldn't say that because I wouldn't be able to figure out that either. So you know what, sorry Ryan. That girl is Zoe, and when he offers to drive her home after she's done helping him out, he finds out that she is homeless, and he invites her to spend the night at his place because she missed out on getting into like the good shelter that she wanted to be in for the night. So Ryan eventually invites Zoe to live with him on more of like a semi-permanent basis, and they really bond. Zoe's backstory is really sad. I'll let you read that yourself as you go in here. But this book, like, it pulled on my heart, but then it was also just like, it had like some humor in it. It was so good. The slow burn, the tension, the romance between these two. Oh, it was so good. Like, it was just as addicting as Puck Me Secretly. Like, I think in my review of that one, I was like, what kind of stuff does this book have in it? Because it was so addicting, and I felt the same exact way about this one. It was equally as addicting, and I couldn't put it down, and I absolutely loved it. And once again, I have the third book downloaded on my Kindle now, and we'll see. Maybe it'll take me until next year to read the third book, but I'm happy that I read that one. And I gave that one 5 stars. Oh, I don't think I said for $24,690, I gave that 3 stars, but I sat on it for a while. I sat on that book for a while because I couldn't figure out if I loved it or hated it, but the ending brought me together to 3 stars for it. Okay, next up, I read a little novella. I read Love Lessons by Cassie Mint. So this one is a student teacher Insta love novella. I don't remember the hero or the heroine's name, but the heroine, she had this one professor like the previous semester, and she was into him but never like did anything about it, and she purposely signs up for his class this semester to see him again. And as soon as he sees her, he's like, you shouldn't be in my class because like I'm not going to be able to resist you anymore, whatever. And yeah, they get together, and of course someone finds out, they blackmail them, whatever. It was fine. There was like, I don't know, it was fine. Moving on. Oh, I read Fair Catch by Candy Steiner. So this is my first Candy Steiner book that I read, and I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. So this one follows Zeke and Riley, and it's, I wrote these all down: sports, football, college, brother's best friend, enemies to lovers, enemies with benefits, and then like childhood friends to enemies to, I'd say like childhood enemies to lovers. They've known each other for a while, even though they're in college. Oh, and forced proximity because they're roommates. Forced proximity, I forgot about that. Forced proximity roommates as well. This book has just tropes everywhere. Riley and Zeke. Riley is a football player, which I love. I love that we have a female athlete, also like a female football player. Like, that's so cool. And she is a kicker, and she has a twin brother. And when they were younger and in high school, he was in a car accident where he was paralyzed. He used to play football. And after he was paralyzed, he asked that Riley, like take his spot on the team and like kind of fulfill his football dreams now that he is unable to do so. And Zeke is her brother's best friend, and Zeke was driving at the time of the car accident, and Riley has a lot of resentment towards Zeke about that night and that accident, and really, really blames him and like hates him for that. They end up going to the same college. So in present day, they're freshmen, they're moving in, they're going to the same college, they are on the same football team, and they are now assigned to be roommates together. And as they're going throughout the season, as they're like doing school, doing football, Riley's just becoming really stressed, and Zeke is like, you know what you need? You need some release. And you know what I can do? I can help you out with that. So they strike up like a mutually beneficial situation. Again, no feelings, but they're just going to kind of use each other to blow off some steam, and Zeke helps Riley with that, and then Riley helps Zeke with his schoolwork because Zeke really, really struggles in school, and sports is kind of like his only hope. To him, he's like, sports is my only hope. Like, I'm not going to be the gold star student that's going to go on and like get this amazing office job. He's like, sports is kind of it for him, and you get into that more. I loved this. I thought it was great, and I can't wait to read Blindside. Yeah. Okay, next up, I read, I loved this one, Passion and Venom by S. Williams, which is Shinora Williams. I think she just wrote this under S. Williams because it is a lot darker than anything that I've read for her when she's written like under Shinora Williams. So this one follows Gianna and Draco, and it is a mafia captor-captive book. So this one I heard about from Paperback Passionista on TikTok. I saw a TikTok that she made about it, and I was like, girl, I am running to my Kindle so quickly, and I did, and it was hot. So they originally meet at the beginning of the book. You see Draco, his dad and Gianna's dad, they're like business associates, you know? And he sees Gianna, I think he's like 6 years older than her, but he sees her and he's instantly like, he's kind of like, who is this girl? And then he finds out that it's like his father's associate's daughter. And I think even the dads are like, one day you're going to marry her or whatever. But then we jump into the present day and Gianna is getting married, not to him. And there has been some things that have gone down in the time since Draco has seen her. And she is getting married. It's her wedding day. And as she's on her way home from her wedding, she is kidnapped. She is taken hostage. And she is taken by Draco's men. However, Draco is unaware of who they are kidnapping. She's in this like dungeon with this one dude who has his hands cut off. And this dude is like warning her like, these guys are ruthless. And yeah, it goes from there. And when Draco shows up, he's not very happy with his men with how Gianna has been kept. It was so good. I have not been disappointed by anything that I've read by Shinora Williams. It is dark though, I will say. Gianna goes through some pretty bad things, especially at the end of the book. Arya, she's literally chewing on the end of my tripod. She's chewing on the back leg. So if this starts jiggling, that's just her chewing on it. But you know what? I'm not gonna tell her no because I'm not a very strict parent. Anyways, I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars, so I would continue on. Next, I read Cold Dark Souls by Candace Wondrak. So this is the second book in the Cruel Black Hearts series. So we read Cruel Black Hearts for Out of Bounds Book Club. That was last month's pick, and it left on a cliffhanger and I wanted to continue going on with the series, so I picked this one up. I can't really say too much about what happens in this one, obviously, because it does give away things that happened in the first book. All I will say is that it's a serial killer, reverse harem romance. Stella, she's a writer and she is obsessed with serial killers. She has a serial killer column in a newspaper, and she falls in with Ed and Lincoln, who both happen to be serial killers, and then you do get her third dude to her harem. You find out who that is in this book, kind of the cliffhanger of the first book, and then it is like you find it out and confirmed in this one. So I won't really say any more, but I gave this one 3 stars. I liked the first book more, I think. I don't know. Here's the thing. It's gory, first of all. I mean, you're dealing with serial killers, but it did get really gory, and I'm not the biggest fan of gore. Like, I don't mind dark romance and blood, but like it's like, they're like literally hooking up in a pool of blood, and I'm like, it's just a little much for me. To each their own. It's just a little much for me. And like the scenes like with Stella and her men, they're very much just like focused on the men. I don't know. This one, it didn't work as much for me as the first one did, but again, it did like leave me intrigued by the end, where like I do want to keep going on with the series, and they are pretty short books, so it's not like you're like reading 500 pages of it. So I don't know, I probably will keep going, but yeah, this one like I didn't like as much as the first one. Okay, next up, I read Into the Clearwater by B. Celeste. So this one, again, we got a lot of tropes here, so stick with me. We got single parent / guardian. Piper is not Ainsley's biological parent. She is her guardian. Brother's best friend, student teacher, roommate, love triangle, slow burn, friends with benefits. We got a lot of shit here. So this one follows Piper and her best friend, Daniel, her best friend from childhood all through adulthood. He passed a couple of years ago, and she's still kind of dealing with his death, and she had an unrequited love for him. His wife passed, and then Dan died in a car accident. leaving Ainsley needing a guardian, and he did name in his will Piper to be her guardian. So Piper is now taking care of Ainsley. She's like 6, I want to say. She is selectively mute. Like, she can speak, she just has not spoken ever since her dad has died. So anyway, so then her romance is between Easton and Carter. So it is a love triangle. So Easton is her tattoo artist roommate because she's still trying to get her way through school. Piper is still trying to get her degree. Obviously, when she took guardianship of Ainsley, that kind of threw her life off course a little bit, and she is trying to finish up her last year of school, and she's like student teaching, and she needed someone to move in to help out with the bills, and she found Easton, like random dude, ended up moving in. He's quiet, kind of keeps to himself, but have a bit of a friends with benefits situation. So it's between him and Carter, who is Piper's brother's best friend. So she's known him since she was younger, always kind of had a bit of a crush on him, but he never paid her much attention. And now he is her professor in college for her last year. And then he also becomes like her mentor, or is that right? So Piper has a student teacher situation. It doesn't end up working out, and she desperately needs to be like a TA or something to someone in order to get her credits to graduate, and Carter offers to give her a TA position with him. So like kind of like boss. This one is a very, very, very character driven book. So if you don't like that, just know that going in. It is slow at times, and I did think it was slow at times. I gave it 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it, but I do think it could have been like a little bit shorter, and I don't normally love love triangles, but this one, like the way that it worked out, I was like very satisfied with, and kind of like a little bit taken by surprise by, and I think they were both like good options. Like either would have been good, and I like that. Next up, Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. We read this for the Out of Bounds Book Club pick for this month. And so it's a standalone. This one follows Sawyer and Enzo and it's enemies to lovers, kind of suspense thriller-ish, and forced proximity. Sawyer is on the run. I'm not going to get into her backstory. You can see that unfold in the book, but she is on the run, and in order to kind of make her way from place to place, keep herself afloat, she steals people's identities. And when she ends up in Australia, she meets Enzo out at a bar one night. They go home together, and she steals his identity. And normally she like steals it and goes, but Enzo tracks her down, and they end up out on his boat. He is a shark researcher, and they end up out on his boat, and there's a huge storm that comes in, and they are shipwrecked, and they end up on this little teeny tiny Raven Island. It's called Raven Island, with a lighthouse with a man who occupies that lighthouse, Sylvester. So they're all stuck on this island, and yeah, it's creepy. Like I finished it at night, and it was like not the vibe for me, but I get scared by a lot. But it was like really creepy. I did end up giving this one 3.5 stars. I did round it up to 4 because I don't know what it was about me that was not clicking with this book. Because H.D. Carlton's writing is great. Like, she's an amazing writer. So the writing was good, the characters were good, the banter was good, the plot was interesting. Like, everything about the book worked, like, as the book. But for some reason, like the book and myself, we were not meshing. We never had a moment where it like clicked and it was just like, and I was in it, which I was kind of disappointed by because I love the Cat and Mouse Duet by H.D. Carlton. It's like one of my favorites. And so I had like high expectations for this one, and I don't think that the book itself was the problem. I do think it was something with me that I just had an issue connecting with. So I would still definitely recommend this book. It's just something about it with me. Just I never fully had that moment where I was like, I'm in it. Let's get a drink before I get into this one. So my first 1-star read of the year, and that is Distorted by Nyla K. Okay, so y'all know, if you watch me for any period of time, you know that I like very, very, very rarely ever give a book 1 star. I pretty much always, if I like don't like it, I like give it 2 stars because I'm like, it wasn't for me, or even like 3 stars sometimes when I'm like, I don't necessarily think it was bad, it just like wasn't for me. This one, 1 star, and I'm so sad because I was excited for this series, but I literally hated this book. So this one follows Dash and Officer Kemper. So this one is like a prison, it's like Alcatraz prison romance between an officer and an inmate, And so it's forced proximity, thriller-ish a little bit. Okay, so this one follows Dash, and he is a bank robber, and he's at a job at one point, and a job goes wrong, and he ends up in Alabaster Penitentiary, and he's kind of like, how did I get here? What did I do? Like, I'm literally like a bank robber. Why am I at this prison? Where this prison is like off the grid. No one knows about it unless if you're in it or like you work there, but otherwise like it's hidden from the public. Once you are in there, you're in there. There's no getting out. There's no, it's like run down, no perks, like no perks, I say like in jail, but you know, it's not like a traditional jail where you would like get visitors. You can have like a lawyer visit you. Like, no, once you're there, and like they don't care about you. Can't say more because of the plot twist with this book, which I'm not even really gonna touch on that. But what really, really, really bothered me, and when I was like, I'm just kind of done with this book, is the R word was used to call someone, to like name call someone. That is just never acceptable to me at all. You can't use that and like classify it as a dark romance and like try to have that as the excuse. I don't like that. And there were also homophobic slurs said in it that once again, I didn't like. And here's the thing that kept me going. One, besides my need to like finish every book that I start, but two, I was like, maybe this character is going to come around, because when Dash enters prison, he enters and he has only ever been with women before, and he is like, I am a straight man. So I'm like, I understood that he was struggling with his sexuality, so I was waiting to see if he was going to ever hit a point where he felt remorse for saying what he did and the words that he did, and that never happened. I think maybe the plot twist was supposed to like explain that away. It didn't for me. So yeah, between that and using the R word, it's like that's just not acceptable to me. And I didn't like the story. I didn't like the romance. I didn't like the twist. I didn't like the characters. Really, the only thing that I thought was cool was the whole like idea of this like Alcatraz type prison. But even that like couldn't save the story for me. And now, so like how I didn't really get into like the Kate Stewart stuff, that's because I've never read Drive. Like I've never read that book that people were upset about. So I can't like speak directly on that because I never read it, but I did read Distorted and I did see those words used on the page. Yeah, so I'm speaking on this because I've read this book. I haven't read that book, so that's why I didn't get into that. But yeah, I did not like this literally at all. Yeah, I was really disappointed by it. Next up, I read Pageant by Lilith Vincent. So this was our Smut Club pick for this month, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. I did round it down to 3 on Goodreads. So this one is a mafia reverse harem captive romance. So this one follows Lilia, and she is a model doing Fashion Week, and one night when she is out on the streets after a show, she runs into a couple who are friends of her father's, and they invite her back to their place to have tea. So she goes back there, and then little does she know, this man shows up, kills both of them, and drugs and kidnaps her. And when she wakes up in a cell with 15 other women, and they are all going to be competing in this pageant to be this dude's wife. Very messed up, very dark. So Constantine, Kirill, I think is how you say it, and Elia are the 3 men that she ends up, you know, dealing with in this book. So Constantine is the one who's looking for a wife, and the rest of them, so he's like, one of you will win this pageant, the rest of you will all be sold afterwards. And he's like, maybe if you make a good impression, we'll like send you to someone nice. Like messed up shit. And Elia is someone that Lilia knows from her past. Lilia was married, her father was in the mafia, and she was in an arranged marriage, and her husband was shot and killed. And she has now kind of been on the run ever since from her father to be able to have some autonomy over her own life. And Elia is someone that she knew from that time when she was still married with her husband, and he absolutely hates her. So when she shows up and he sees her, he is immediately like, nope, she's dead, but let her compete for fun. But nope, I'm gonna kill her by the end of this. So yeah, it goes from there. Yeah, I liked this. I didn't love it. I didn't love how like chunky the flashbacks were, and they kind of like, I wish that they were more like interspersed throughout the story rather than just like a couple of huge chunks. They were like 25-minute long chapters. Like, it was just long chunks of flashbacks, and I would have just preferred like shorter ones, more like interspersed. I don't know. I didn't really care about the romance between any of them. The ending was good. I did like that. And my interest is piqued enough to read the second book at some point, but I'm not in like any rush to jump into it anytime soon. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but nothing like super stand out to me. We're down to the last 3 that I've read so far this month. So next I read Bring Me Back by Kristen Granada. So I had seen a reel that she had on her Instagram, like introducing all of her books. And so I watched that and I like screenshotted a couple. And one thing that I saw about this author is that she really struggles with mental health and that she has struggled a lot in the past and that she really writes that into some of her books. And my interest was piqued by that because I'm always looking for books with good mental health representation. So Bring Me Back, this one follows Phoenix and James, and it is a neighbors romance, friends to lovers, heavy focus on mental health. So Phoenix moves in to this house in Jersey. It's her family's like summer home that her father, he passed away and he left this to her. She does not speak with her mother anymore and she has a pretty like estranged relationship from her brother. And Phoenix goes to live here once she is out of a like psychiatric care center, kind of. What would you call that? I don't know, but she's been there for the past like year or so because she had attempted suicide and she survived. That is what kind of broke the relationship with her mother and kind of like caused some strain between her and her brother. So now she's just living in this home by herself, and she ends up meeting the neighbor next door when he literally breaks into her house because he's like, who is in here? And normally his brother sometimes comes and crashes in this house because it's been empty. So he thinks that his brother might be in here. His brother is he comes and goes. He's kind of flaky. You get more into the brother. But anyway, so he ends up breaking in and they have this whole like little interaction and it's kind of funny. And anyways, it goes from there. I liked this one a lot. I gave this one 4 stars. I really liked the journey that Nyx goes on and healing and just kind of being okay with herself and accepting what she's done in the past and being at peace with that and looking forward to the future and finding things that like make her happy and give her reasons to like get up, keep going, that kind of thing. I really, really loved that. You could tell that unfortunately the author had such like a deep understanding of this character, and you don't want someone to have ever felt that before, but you could tell that the author just understood and felt everything that Nyx was feeling, and I really enjoyed that. I didn't necessarily love some of the stuff with James and like some of his storylines. I would say like Nyx was really the highlight for me. I really appreciated that. Next up then, I read Sweet Mercy by K.A. Tucker, aka Nina West. If you see this floating around with Nina West is the title, that was her pen name. She originally published it under that and then she republished it under her own name, K.A. Tucker. So same book, same author, just different name. This one is the first book in the Empire Nightclub series, and I'm currently reading the second book. I'm definitely going to finish it tonight. I have like an hour and a half in it. So I won't touch on that one here, obviously, today, but Sweet Mercy. Mercy's father is in prison. He murdered a guy, and yes, he did actually murder him, but he had his reasons, and Mercy now is, she's about to finish up school, but because of her father's really, really bad defense, he was sent away for like 20 years. So she wants to start law school in order to try to become a lawyer, to like give him the appeal that he needs to try to get him out of prison, because she's like, he should not be in there for so long. And like, anyways, he's visiting her father in prison, and Gabriel is also visiting his father in prison, but his father is in prison because he's like a crime boss. You know, they do some like unsavory business and he finally got caught. Gabriel's there for his visit with his dad, but he doesn't like his dad. But anyways, you get into that. But he sees Mercy there and he's like, oh, well, hello there. And he wants Mercy, but he's kind of like, what can I do to attract this girl? What can I do? And when Mercy's father starts having some trouble on the inside, he's like, hey, you know what I can do? I can give your father protection because I have connections to the inside and I can make sure that he's looked after. And Mercy's like, okay, but what do I have to do for it? And he's like, you know what? You can come and live with me for a whole week. You can come and live with me, because he wants her and she is not giving into his advances. So he's like, you know what? Okay, do this for me. And so yeah, it's like a little bit of a forced proximity situation between them. It's so addictive. Like if you read the Wolf Hotel series by K.A. Tucker, it's like not similar vibes. They're like very different circumstances, different characters, but it's got that same addictive quality about it. I am really, really liking it. I'm in the middle of the second book right now. And so I gave this first one 4 stars. And lastly, which is a reread, the graphic audio of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So when I went to, my cousin got married earlier this month and I get extremely car sick. I can't even like really be on my phone. I can't read, like nothing. So I was like, let me download an audiobook. Y'all know I'm not an audiobook bitch, but I heard good things about the graphic audio because it's supposed to be like a movie. Like it has like sound effects, music, like you can hear like background noise. It's got like a whole cast of characters. So I was like, let me give this a go. And especially on a book that I already know. This was my 4th time rereading A Court of Thorns and Roses, but the first time listening to it. And I loved the graphic audio. This was so good. Like I'm already starting to listen to the A Court of Mist and Fury graphic audio. So when she's hunting at the beginning of the book, you can like hear the bowstring be pulled, and then like on Calanmai, you know, they're like the drums, and you can like hear the drums in the background. And I really love the graphic audio. So I had a fun time rereading it. I'm not gonna become like an audiobook girly from this, but I would become like a graphic audio girly from this, because I really enjoyed that. That is everything. Like I said, I might have like another book or two to add to this list, but I'll just lump those in with next month. So anyways, that is it for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you when I see you.